I'm really bullish on this element of the importance and value of community building and retention, because there's going to be so much more competition in the future with AI marketing and with AI products. It's like we've got tons of new products being built because AI can help you build them. We got tons of marketing initiatives going on, paid ads, and all the cost of your eyeballs getting more and more expensive. So therefore, real loyalty building and actually building more of this ethos and connective component to brands is going to be much, much higher valued and important for projects to have.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 83 of Colors of Web3 and Entrepreneurship. My name is Lam, your Web3 host. For those of you who are new to the show, Colors of Web3 and Entrepreneurship is a show highlighting the journeys of builders and innovators in Web3 and entrepreneurship. Some topics, especially in Web3, may get technical, but we do our best to keep it accessible for most people. Today I'm joined by Dan Rodman. He's the CEO and co-founder of CoUnity. Dan, give a quick introduction by yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Dan. As you know, you mentioned there, we won't get too technical in this one, which is great. We're going to go much more on the element of strategy, marketing, and a very heavy focus in community building. I am CEO and co-founder at CoUnity, and we strategize and help build communities for projects almost as a partner. And it's similar to like an agency model. We focus a lot on going into the community structures, building Discords, building Telegrams, then moving into community experiences, designing gamification, retention-based systems, increasing more engagement and participation, and then focusing a lot as well now on like the top 1% of your community with ambassador programs. So empowering your community. How do you design the right systems to run an effective ambassador program in the space? Yeah, it's been a journey, and we're evolving a lot every day, and excited to chat with you more about it.
Exciting, yeah, for sure. Well, we will be talking a lot more about your what you guys building. But actually, before that, I think many of the viewers and listeners would be interested to know about like what you did before. Could you give feel free to pick a point in time that you think appropriate, maybe after college or your first job, and then walk us forward to the current day.
Sure.
Just share more about you.
Yeah. So I'm actually Canadian. I'm from British Columbia, and I played a lot of football, a lot of soccer, and I ended up getting a scholarship in the U.S. So I went to college in the U.S., Memphis, Tennessee.
Nice.
I studied mechanical engineering. I got a mechanical engineering degree. I got my master's degree in science and engineering management with a focus in innovation. I did a lot of data analytics and whatnot. And then I ended up trying to chase a little bit of the dream, and I made it onto a team in Northern Europe and played professional, like a season
Nice.
of football in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia.
Oh, that's so cool. What was your position, by the way? Are you like?
I was a winger. So
okay, yeah,
nice.
Nice.
Lots of running up and down the line. And then I ended up coming back to the US so I could keep my visa and the ability to be able to work in the US, because I was on a visa from Canada and you have to start working right away. So I jumped into an engineering job. I was a commercial construction project manager.
Nice.
So I led like a team of welders and fitters installing HVAC systems in the St. Jude Advanced Research Center in Memphis. So it was a really cool project. It was a very, very fancy building, very high-tech medical stuff. And then I actually transitioned from that job into a job where I was helping as an operations process engineer with robotics. So I was doing a lot of data analytics there and building KPI dashboards and measuring everything in the plant, how we can increase our efficiencies. But I guess like throughout this whole journey and even in college, I was very entrepreneurial. I was very keen on how am I going to like start a business, right? What am I going to do? And so I followed a lot of the whole YouTube trap of, all the videos, how to make $1 million, right? I jumped into affiliate marketing. I jumped into, drop shipping. I tried that. I had multiple failed, business endeavors. I'm not sure. Did you ever jump down some of those loopholes?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really follow the $1 million, but I actually tried a lot of side business. I think one of my failure was in like e-commerce. Yeah, we launched a brand and then in Japan, try to sell it, and then realize like, oh man, this is actually really competitive and couldn't really make it sustainable. Because there's a lot of factors into play. Yeah. So it was a tough market. Yeah.
I tried to drop ship a supplement brand and make my own branding around a protein and, health and fitness supplement. And and that one completely failed. And it was funny because I actually opened up that business officially, and then I forgot to close it properly. And then I got a letter from the U.S. IRS, and it was like, you owe $70,000 in taxes on your business because
My goodness.
we estimated your sales. And I was like, I hardly made any sales, and so I just had to prove that like
Yeah.
my sales were much lower, and then I just had like a little small fee that I had to pay in the end. But it was a bit of a
Yeah.
scare. I was like, oh geez, you may have a lot of ideas to start a lot of businesses, but don't forget to close them properly.
Yeah. Exactly. You need to exit properly, right?
Yeah. And I guess that was also part of the journey into Web3 and into crypto. And it started with stock trading. With I was actually trading options, and I was starting to really not get too bad at it. I was making some money here and there, and really enjoyed looking and learning all the candles and indicators, and like looking through the stock charts and everything. And it was on the app Robinhood that I was using.
Okay. Yeah.
And Robinhood added crypto onto their app. I think it was 2018 or 2019. And that was the first time I was like, oh, interesting, like crypto, like that could be something to look into. And then I was thinking, well, how does this work? And I need to
Mm-hmm.
understand this because my engineering brain's always trying to break things down and system think through things. And then I went down this rabbit hole of blockchain technology. And as I was getting through it and like looking through the Bitcoin white paper and looking through what everyone else was talking about with it, I was like, I really think this is going to change a lot in the world. Like, this is a pretty groundbreaking revolution here. I need to figure out how I factor into this space. And so, as I was asking myself that question, learning these things, I had someone that I actually used to play soccer with in Canada, very successful entrepreneur, has multiple large businesses that he's started now. And one of them was a company very much in the marketing space. One of them was a company called Agency Box, which was basically letting you create your own agency in a box, was the whole thing, where his whole team did all the fulfillment for typical marketing agency services, and all you like had to do was own the influx of finding the clients and building the brand for your website. And then whenever someone ordered any of your services, their whole team would fulfill it. And so I basically
Interesting concept.
created, yeah, a very interesting
Yeah.
concept. I basically created a brand called Line Rise Marketing, and it was for PR. And I mostly did work with a bunch of NFT projects and things. This was like when the NFTs were getting really hot. So it was
Yeah.
like the NFT summer, and it did quite well. Like, I helped get a lot of articles published and placed, but it was all paid media, like with the articles. Like, it wasn't really earned PR, right? And there was a component to it where it was like, it didn't feel as fulfilling in a certain sense. I was like, this is great. I'm having a little bit of business that's going, but they're paying me, and then I'm paying someone else to fulfill the stuff, and I'm helping write some of it and strategy of it, right? And I'm helping obviously sell the package with it. But I just felt a little bit like middleman-y, It was like, I'm just basically packaging up something else and then selling it. I want to think through more, what I can do. And this was in the same time where I started going to my first conferences. And that's been a big thing for me also. I've been a constant conference traveler for the last 3 years basically.
Cool.
And that initial conference, I met someone through the conference app where you could network, whatever. And his name is Peter. And he was a freelancer and had the Discord Guru was a project that he called himself. And the man is such a great human being, such an amazing human being, but not maybe like the most like social or wanting to really push out and sell like his services with what he was doing, which was building really great Discord servers. Like, the Web3
Mm-hmm.
space has a lot of Discord servers that are quite
Yeah.
terribly set up.
Yeah.
And so we became friends, started chatting, and then I met my like current business partner right now, Nick, and we started having some conversations with him as well. He had a project that was helping kind of mentor business elements for early entrepreneurs in the Web3 space. His background was in mortgage insolvency, mergers and acquisitions. He's got a wife, and kids and whatnot, but very knowledgeable around understanding legal structures and understanding these elements of business, right? And so we all started having the conversation around this pain point in the space, and we were like, let's do something about this. Let's go after this more, right? And try and level this up a bit more. So I started pushing more, going to conferences and talking to people and learning and validating the problem. And then we started to get some of our initial clients. The first one was a gaming project, and we helped them even build a handbook for their moderation team. We then restructured their whole space, and we got really good feedback from them. And it was a good sized contract. And we're like, wow, we've got some actual PMF here, right? Like we could do something cool.
Yeah.
And then it just kept growing from there. We started with doing Discord servers, and then we started thinking through, I started introducing my data analytics background, and it was like community analytics. So I started doing a lot of community analytics and getting more insights from those community analytics for the right ideas and direction and strategy on the structure, as well as on the experiences, on like, what do we gamify? And this is where we started leaning into different questing platforms and setting them up in the right way. And then the analogy that I like to use really is, you could think of us, we started to become better and better chefs, where we knew lots of ingredients being like community tools, because there's a lot of community tools out there, but we understand how to make the right cuisine now. We understand certain brands and projects and what their goals are. And then we know which community tools work really well and how to set them up. And then we started, then from that evolution, started to build some of our own tooling a little bit and our own systems. And we have some devs on our team. We had an acquisition of an actual project called WidgetBot, which I can touch on a little bit later. But those developers are on our team, and we've just been constantly innovating in community. Is at CoUnity is like our tagline. We're just working with more and more different projects, and we landed a really big project in the space called EigenLayer.
Oh yeah.
And so we've been working with them for about 18 months now on multiple different scopes of work. And once we, brought them in, we started also doing some work with Gaia, with Jensen, with Ritual, some really solid projects in the space, big projects, and really helping them think through a lot more elements of the strategy of community and, designing the right systems, the right structures, a lot of aspect to even training. But I can touch more on that. But that's some of the story of the last few years. And it's just been iterating on this model and building and growing and traveling to, 30 conferences and building relationships with people. But yeah, it's been good.
Exciting. Yeah. Well, of course, we will for sure deep dive into all of that. But yeah, just maybe one question before we deep dive into your main company. Well, so many things you're doing now. What's your main hobbies these days? Do you still play soccer, or you quit already?
I still play a lot. I do still play a lot. And actually, I was fairly nomadic for the last 3 years as I was going to all these conferences. But I just got a lease a few months ago here in Lisbon. So it's a bit of a base now. I'm still traveling a lot, but hey, at least I get to leave some stuff at home and pack, the right
Nice.
clothes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I am a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. Growing up in the small mountain town in Canada, I did a lot of skiing, a lot of backcountry skiing, mountain biking, and then more recently, a few years ago, this is probably the craziest one, I got my paragliding license. So I have a paraglider.
Wow. That's really cool.
So I enjoy, sometimes for these conferences, I pack this big bag, which is my parachute, my paraglider, and then after the conference, whatever, I'll take a taxi up to a nearby mountain and go jump off the mountain and fly around, see the city.
You can fold a paraglider into a suitcase. I mean, I don't know how.
Not really a suitcase. It's like a big, it looks like a big backpacker's bag, basically.
Got it. Okay. So it's like a big musical instrument type of bag, right?
Yeah, almost in a way.
Or like a snowboard, ski board size, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big bag, honestly. Big bag. It sticks out from my back. Sometimes they call it oversized baggage, which is,
I see. Yeah.
It's but it's not that heavy though, because the parachute's really light, and the harness is not too heavy. And so typically what I do is I stuff a bunch of my clothes in there as well. So it's like, I see. I've got all my clothes on top of the parachute and the harness
to protect it as well, right? Like give them cushion.
Exactly, a little cushion, right?
Okay. What's what's the most interesting place that you have paraglided from?
I think my favorite place and most beautiful place is probably in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah.
Really enjoy that. There's a event that happens there. One of the earliest friends that I connected with in the Web3 space, he was a member of a project called Meta Cartel. And there is an event that he organized every year, sometimes twice a year in Costa Rica called Meta Camp. Really awesome event, and met amazing people there. It's usually around 30 to 50 founders. people really pushing driving in the space, and it was a week-long event. And so that's a great thing. I would go to Costa Rica a lot too, and then I would often nip down to this mountainous area and go paraglide there, and it's just beautiful. I remember seeing like a sloth on the top of a tree as I was like
Oh wow.
flying by just over the jungle. It's
Saying
really
hi.
cool.
Yeah, he was saying hi to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man. That's wild. Yeah. How tall was that mountain? Like, and then from there you landed.
Wasn't crazy tall, because the beautiful thing
Okay.
about paragliding as well is that it's really interesting. You start to look at air differently when you learn more
Really?
about paragliding and you fly a lot, and you
Why?
realize that air is like a liquid. There's areas of the
Okay.
air that are rising and there's areas that are falling, right? And there's like thermals. And so what you're constantly doing is you're looking for warm air that's rising. And
Okay.
because the
Makes sense.
paraglider has I don't have any motor, I don't have any
Yeah.
like,
No
it's not
engine.
powered at all, no engine. And so the way that I stay up in the air, and I've had flights that were about 2.5 hours,
Really?
and the way that I stay
Like
up in
because you
the
couldn't
air,
land, or you couldn't land, or you
no, just because
wanted to be.
I wanted to
Ah, you
stay up.
wanted
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think I only landed because I had to go pee. But basically, yeah, you look at birds a lot, right? And you see birds
Mm.
thermaling, and that's
Yeah.
like the number one indicator. When I'm flying, I'm looking for the birds because they're like the best guides. When you see a bird
Mm.
and you see it flying, and it's like birds want to take the most effortless path, right? And they want to stay in the air a lot of the time if they're like a hawk looking for things. And so they'll find these little columns of warm air, and so then you can just follow them and then hop into the thermal with them, and then you turn and you can, you've got your little variometer and you're going beep, 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 beep. Maybe you fall out of the thermal, and then you can just kind of coast around a little bit. And then as you get back down, you want to find another thermal. So that's the one way to get up. The other way is if wind's coming really strong,
Yeah.
especially on near the coast, like ridge soaring is what it's called. The wind hits the ridge and then it makes this bubble of air, and then you can coast back and forth. You can fly like you're surfing on that bubble of air. You're just using the wind more. But yeah, it's a great sport. I think it's, for me, honestly, it's one of those things where, I would say my only really like addiction is probably to like adrenaline sports. And I think there's a component of this aspect where when you're locked in paragliding or skiing or mountain
Yeah.
biking, all these other thoughts of everything going on in the crypto space and all the work I have and all the clients and all like the problems and all that just like fade away. It's like you got to stay focused in on,
Yeah.
on it. So it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you probably need to focus anyway, right? Otherwise, like, you need to control where you're landing, where you're hitting, and that sounds like a very fancy sport, I would say, right? I mean, I guess it probably took a lot of training, right, to get to there.
You
Obviously,
would think, right? But it took about 2 weeks
really.
to get your
And then
license. Yeah,
that's it.
and then
2
it's
weeks
pretty
like training
wild.
every day
It's
training,
wild.
and
Everyday training, and then they're
okay,
like, "Here's your license. You can go jump off mountains. Here's your gear. Go ahead," which is pretty wild. But the training
yeah,
system is interesting because they connect your license to your instructor. So if I were
okay,
to be in an accident or have done something wrong or I'm not allowed to
mm,
do or fly where I'm not allowed to fly and I get caught or whatever, it's like your reputation is almost connected to your instructor, which I think is an
I see.
interesting kind of component,
Yeah,
because then your instructors are quite selective about who they give a license to.
okay,
Like you almost, if you're like kind of gung ho and kind of crazy, some instructors will be like, "I'm not giving you your license." It's like
yeah, yeah.
you don't have the right attitude to have a license.
I see. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's like you have to have someone to vouch for you, right? Basically, in order to like, because if you get
Yeah.
into an accident, it will ruin the reputation, I suppose.
Hmm. Which I think
Mm.
is, we talk a lot about reputation in this Web3 world, don't we?
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that's a big component of everything coming here in the future, is a big stress, I think, on reputation and verification as we
Mm.
move into this world of synthetic people and AI, and we don't even know what's real. But
Yeah,
that's a big one.
interesting. And yeah, I suppose like paragliding community is probably small. That's why
It is pretty small.
it's pretty
Yeah,
small,
it
right?
is
Yeah.
really interesting landing in a new country, and then on a good day, you'll go to the paragliding launch site, and then you'll see other paragliders there. Then you connect with them, and everyone's so friendly, and it's a really welcoming community. And then you maybe get in a group chat,
Hmm.
and it's like that whole country. It's just like a handful of different, wild pilots and whatnot. But yeah, the technology is also improving a lot from a safety perspective
Mm.
and whatnot. There's a lot of advancements around the wing design and all that. But yeah, Paragliding's fun. It's a great one.
Yeah, fascinating, fascinating. Yeah, I'm sure that's a good transition. Talking about community, paragliding community. Now let's switch
Yeah,
back to our main topic. Yeah, let's go ahead
sure.
and deep dive. I think you did share a bit about like the historical background, but feel free to share more on the background on CoUnity if you have, and then yeah, feel free to share any presentation that you may have as well too. Yeah,
Sure.
enlighten
Yeah,
us.
I'm happy to pull up our little presentation here. And then there is this concept that we've been refining a little bit, which I can talk a bit around. All right. I'm just going to
Okay.
pull the
Yeah.
window. Here we go.
All right.
All right. Yeah. CoUnity. So this is a bit of a rebrand that we also did recently. I really like this element. We introduced an actual slash in our name. There is some
Mm.
elements that even like we capitalize the U, but sometimes you'd be on calls and people would say like CoUnity. And I'm like, no, it's CoUnity, right?
Oh,
And
is that why you introduced the slash?
part of it,
Is
yeah.
that
And
right?
then there's
Okay.
actually a bit of a brand architecture. We have some other things that we're cooking, co slash hort, for example, cohort, and some other products and things that we're working on. Um, but a large part of what we do and how we're different and how we compare to like a marketing agency. People often ask me, "Are you a marketing agency?" I was in Dubai at Token, and I was in this one room, and there's so many marketing agencies in the space. It was interesting. I started to brand myself more as like we're not a marketing agency. Like we don't do PR, we don't do KOLs, we don't do paid media, we don't write content. We don't do all those typical things that like a marketing agency does. And the concept of what we focus on is this ethos of GTC, which is go to community strategy. And I was really stoked and honored and happy to get on the whale pool stage at ETH Denver this past year. We didn't sponsor anything, they just looked at the title of the talk, which was "Go to Community Strategy,"
That's
and the ethos of it. And
That's really
yeah,
cool, by the way. Yeah, because I think for those who may not know in our industry, I mean, East Denver is like one of the biggest, I would say, biggest conference out there in Web3 crypto, and then I think it's a real honor to be honest if you get to speak over there.
yeah, no, I was super honored for it as well, and had a great time. I think it was the middle of the early afternoon. There was about 70, I think 80 people listening in, which is a lot of conferences. You don't see as many people tuned in on some of the talks and whatnot. So I was really really stoked to present this vision of GTC and the strategy and what it means. And I can jump into that a little bit after this presentation, but there's another like this actual presentation itself. I can pull it up and walk through. We can talk a
Yep.
little bit about what GTC is. But overall, what CoUnity brings to the table here is a lot around community strategy. We do help with moderation and management, but the way that we approach community moderation is a little bit different. We have a case study coming out here soon where we put in some of our own team and partners, like moderators that we know are really great at moderating a community and welcoming people and nurturing them and all that. And then we use a lot of community analytics, because I'm really big into the analytics side, to find community members who are really active, who are showing up at certain times, and had an element of consistency. Then we reached out to them and we hopped on a call with them, and we actually brought them then and introduced them to a training program on how to be a moderator, how to use the Discord tools, and how to have the conversations, how to engage people. And over the course of 6 weeks, we then kind of got them to their certification through CoUnity. And we had them shadow our moderators for a little while, and then we pulled our moderators out. And so we came in basically and built the community team. So I like to think that we can help projects build really strong community teams from within. And this was like something that I actually thought was going to take more like 6 months, but we did it with this project in about, I think it was 4.5, 5 months or so. I think for a lot of projects, it could take 6 months, to identify the right people and then train them. But that's a component of the community management side I like to, flex that are a little different on, that I think is very, wholesome of building these actual elements of more community led. Building and like the structure and design themselves and optimizing Discord. I mean, I hear so many things about Discord. A lot of people are like, I hate Discord. It's such like a terrible, like I'm always in there and I get lost and there's way too many channels and all that. And it's like, well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, there's way too many channels because of the server that you were in, because of the experience of that person's build, right? And
Okay.
this is an interesting conundrum with community platforms right now. that I'm seeing, because I'm doing a lot of analysis on all sorts of community platforms all the time, is that you often have, you either have the community platform design, very smooth user experience to build a community, and then everything kind of becomes vanilla and cookie cutter, right? Like every community pretty much looks the same, you know? Things like School, Circle, Coros, Bevy, like they're kind of like this, right? More of these enterprise that are, everyone's the same. Discord, though, I mean, if anyone's familiar or try to set up a Discord server, the amount of settings and crazy things you can tweak, it's like, and then not to mention the third party side where you can introduce other bots and like, you know,
Yeah.
code in other systems. It
Apps or
gets,
tools on top, right? Yeah.
yeah, apps for tools on top. Exactly. It's so complicated. So the problem is you have a very complex user experience to set one up. So if you don't know what you're doing, you generally build pretty poor, pretty terrible Discord experiences, right? And then everyone's going through those and then they're like, I hate Discord, right? So I think it's like an element of you have to think a little bit about the right design on those things, right? And so we like, you know, have a lot of innovation with what we do with projects there to hit the right, you know, community personas and whatnot. And then leaning into the actual experiences themselves. Gamification is a big part. I'll talk about that more on the GTC side. Onboarding strategy. I feel like a lot of onboarding people don't really think as much about. I call it like the OX, the onboarding experience. Like, are you really nurtured and know where to go next when you join the community? What are the different ways that you can do that? So we helped like think through those elements. And then a huge important part about education and factoring that more in with the content, creating more feedback loops is really impactful to learn more from the community on next steps, on what they can do, and to help you shape even like product to have a better impact. And then ambassadors as a service. You know, I think this is something that we really help projects out a lot, because there's a lot of you know, issues I think right now in the space with extrinsic incentives and just a rewarding ambassador programs. And then as soon as the rewards go away, all the ambassadors leave. It's like they create mercenaries and kind of bounty hunters instead of actually creating like real loyal advocates, right? So the right strategy on how to build those ambassador programs and how to set them up and how to measure them. We actually built our own tool called the AMS, Ambassador Management System, which is an interesting component. But yeah, around like elements of GTC and what we really do at the end of the day is taking a scientific approach on community strategy, on the actual experience design, where we make a hypothesis, usually with analytics, to come up with an initiative idea. And we've got so many of these different ideas that we've seen work really well. We've seen work kind of average for all of our past, you know, like 14, 15 different clients that we've had. And so we're getting really good at like knowing what better ideas, you know, stem from different data, right? And we're leveraging a lot of AI on the insights on some of this as well. But then when you come up with this idea for an initiative, you launch that initiative and then you measure the engagement. That builds relationships and builds trust, right? And then you tweak it. You look at the data, you might tweak what that initiative is, and then it's like a bit of a flywheel on community building. This is like a core ethos to a lot of community experience design. Just having this approach of taking a hypothesis, taking a guess as best you can with the data, and then, you know, looking at the results that compounds and then kind of flowing into that, right? So this is what we partner with projects and help them through this element. And like I said, I'm pretty analytics obsessed. There's multiple tools that we use. We also started to create our own scraping, our own tools, things like measuring sentiment analysis, looking into demographics, active times, keywords, even like language groupings, and really thinking through like what's the right time to drop something, what is the right topic or secondary component that would be of interest to them, and you know, who are people that we could potentially empower and activate more, what are certain times, what are certain countries, how do we like really think through these components. So all the analytics helps us with that. We're partners with Cookie3. I know the guys there. They're great. I've known them for a long time, and what they've built is just really fantastic. They're based out of Poland, and yeah, those Polish devs, they can really ship. So they've done a great job creating a product that basically connects Google Analytics into on-chain analytics. Right? I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Cookie3? Have you heard of
Interesting.
them?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I know Google Analytics, obviously.
Yeah. So the whole idea is basically when you have a bit of Cookie3 script on your website and someone visits your website, if you're a project or a protocol, you have like the Google Analytics information about them. You know the source they came from. You know some demographic
Yeah.
information a lot of time, their IP address, this stuff, right? Then it takes all that data, and if they then connect wallet, then you have all this on-chain data, right? And so then
Okay. Yeah.
it creates that full attribution profile. So now you could sort by country and see wallet values, like you could do
Mm,
these different types of things. So it's really interesting to learn a bit more
nice.
about more the on-chain behavior of people, right? And you can set up different goals and events and conversions. And I really like their whole data analytics suite. They do also have, now they've moved a little bit also with one of their verticals. They've got cookie snaps
Yeah.
and like the Kaido yaps. And I'm not as much of like a fan of some of those things. Cause to me, like the attention economy is kind of crazy, like incentivizing people to post content.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not as great benefits to, real sustainable community building when you're incentivizing lots of content and whatnot. But I digress.
That's true. No, I think it should come from like the intrinsic, right? Intrinsic motivation is stronger than extrinsic. It's
Totally.
just something from psychology.
Yeah, 100%. We lean so much into the intrinsic design
Mm,
with projects, and it's hard to think through those things, and it's hard for projects to see that. So we're
mm,
big proponents of that for sure. But yeah, a lot of the detailed analytic reports that we provide. One important element I think that a lot of projects forget is they'll spend the money on a smart contract audit for their protocol and whatnot, and those get really expensive. We try and remind them not to forget about security audits on their Discord or on their community spaces, right? Because I think this past summer there was even a phase where there was 4 or 5 big projects that all got hit by hackers, and it's really sad when a hacker can jump into a community space, fake an announcement or a link, and trick everyone in there because it seems like it's coming from the brand to click the link, and then a bunch of people get their wallets drained. It's like it's not a good sentiment. It's not a good situation. And the thing is like, projects spend a lot of money on the smart contract audit because if that gets hacked, they lose the money. But if the community gets hacked, the community loses the money. So it's, we're trying to push more for this component of, making sure your space is secure. And we do pretty quick. Often, if projects are interested in working with us, we do free, quick security audits. And the amount of stuff we pull up so quickly, it's wild because there is a lot of settings to the Discord thing. Like we find things where, for example, someone may have boosted the server early on, and that gave them extra permissions because they boosted. And so then they have an ability to post an announcement, or something like this, right? And so there's sneaky little like security components that you don't realize that we've got a team on our side who are specialists in this, and they find lots of interesting things. Um, but yeah, and then another component of what we offer for projects is support strategy. I think like ticketing systems and whatnot in Discord can get quite muddled and confusing, and around big events there can be huge floods of tickets, and it can be hard to manage. And so we have this like ethos. It's actually called the Loop framework, on looking through support strategy and design. And what it comes to is 2 main categories of enablement and then support. So we help projects organize their space and their community so that people can self-serve, they can get the information themselves. Then they can potentially ask AI for assistance. So bots might jump in and answer their question in certain places. Then we try and build a culture in a community where there's forums and places where community members support each other. And then finally, then the last stage is, okay, open like a ticket, and it can be escalated to the right person with the right priority to respond to. So helping set up this element to reduce as much, the whole idea of this is to create as much efficiency with projects and protocols support engineers, because these project protocols are running on slim budgets and runways, and they need as much of their engineering time in building, then they don't need their engineers tied up with answering support ticket questions. So how do we create as efficient as a process as possible to minimize that time and reduce that burden? This is something that we also like help projects with because it can be very community led and helpful. But yeah, I'm not sure like if there's
nice.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, you provide like the entire, like the comprehensive solution to build a community from scratch.
Yeah, help set up people with it, right? And like I mentioned, the analogy around us being chefs, like these are all projects that we know the founders and we've partnered with, right? And there's a whole bunch more, right? And then around a specific project that we actually acquired, like this one's really interesting. You might find this kind of neat. So what you're actually seeing here is a widget on a Discord server. I know this does play.
And you did mention this is a project that you acquire, right? Right, which it
Yes,
bought. Yeah.
I guess it doesn't want to play. That's all right. It's kind of playing.
Mm.
Basically, the idea of what you're seeing here is like a little chatbot that can pop up, and it's an actual window directly into your Discord, but it's on your website. And it can also be permanently embedded on the side. So you could have a live stream, for example, like we're having now, and you could have a Discord server embedded on a web page beside it. So we think it's really cool. So it's being utilized with different projects to be a component of a window into the community or an element of support. And the other interesting aspect to it is that you can actually you can actually be you don't even need to have a Discord account. You can just write your own name in there and just start chatting. So we're seeing a lot of cool applications for this that we're experimenting with, bringing some of the complex Discord stuff to the web page, right? Bringing it closer to the audience, which is kind of neat.
Interesting. So it's like a way for people to like try out the community without even joining, right? Because
Yeah,
I think we
exactly.
know that for Discord you have to join a community first. You can chat, right? You have to verify, and sometimes maybe go through a couple of hoops.
Yeah. And so what you can do is you can have this just as one channel, right? So you might have in your
Mm.
Discord, there's one channel that is mirrored to the website. Um, and that is the channel where you might get a lot of random people, on the internet asking a question or coming in. And one of the things that we were toying a little bit with is imagine this is a product that someone's looking to buy, and then they
Yeah.
ask a question about it, and then the community jumps in and starts responding to them, helping them with it, and maybe one community member nurtures them through and gets them over the line to buying the product. Can we associate even a commission now to that community member for helping sell that product? Community-led sales in a way. It's like there's a whole variety of different interesting ways this could be implemented.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, I think first time I've actually seen this.
Yeah. And then getting to where we got, honestly, with being really innovative, this is like I did a lot of research. This is screenshots of different Discord servers, of websites, of Twitter, and really going deep into, mapping out reverse engineering other projects, thinking through the funnel design. We focus a lot in this aspect of engagement, participation, activation, contribution to real impact. There's a lot of projects I think that spend insane amounts of money on awareness, on KOLs, on PR, and getting the eyeballs, which is important to get that component. But then they have a really leaky funnel. They're not able to engage or retain these people. They may join, but then they just don't. They're not active anymore. So
Yeah.
this is the world that we really live in around retention. And yeah, but to do that, we do a lot of thinking on actually mapping out the personas of these different projects. Like, who are they? Builders, developers. That's the thing with Web3. There's so many complex personas to one project. You might have a node runner, a validator, a staker, and then you might have the builder on that ecosystem. Then you might have the retail investor with the token, and all of them have very different goals, right? So how do we onboard them and understand who they are, and then like funnel them to the right spaces and really systems design it specifically for them? I think that's like a lot of some of the pain point with a lot of projects is they just throw everyone into the same
I
space.
see.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
smart community segmentation flows.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean, you don't want people to get too overwhelmed or like show them topics they're not interested in, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that will
exactly.
lose the interest. Okay.
And I mean, we do a lot of work with Telegram as well. Like, we've built some custom Telegram bots with one of our partners, and help set up Telegram channels and structure there. But it's really, like I said, it's one of those Telegram is one of those things where it's not as complex or crazy to set up, but you can still introduce a lot of elements of unique community strategy. You can build custom bots, and so we still do a lot of work with some projects more in the Telegram world. But I think what we're most excited about recently is this element of this is like the first ambassador program for EigenLayer that we designed before they rebranded to EigenCloud. And it was really, really amazing, the results that we got from this program. We have a case study on this as well, which I could share. But like we drove millions of impressions. We drove over 1 million impressions with this program,
Wow,
and
it's huge.
this was from not even paying them. This wasn't extrinsically rewarded. We told them from the very beginning that this was not a paid program, and the access that they did get is like shout out to like Sriram also, by the way. He's like an incredible leader. But we were hopping on calls once a month with Sriram, and for them, just that exclusive access to be in a Google Meet with Sriram and to be able to ask him questions, to be closer to the team and get the insights on different things that were going on was super helpful for all these different, early. This is the first program that we ran with them. We ran 2 programs with them. The insights for them then and like that leadership helped improve their content so much. And then some of them had their content reposted by, EigenLayer team members, and by even like the brand, which then gave them a ton of exposure. And a lot of them, their following counts like grew a lot, right? Some of them started with not the biggest following counts and ended up like getting a ton, and other of them had some decent following, and they were more like mentors in a certain sense. So it was really, really strong results around the program. The first one that we ran got over 500,000 impressions, and the second one did even a little bit better. So it was a really great program. This is a little bit older, but yeah, we've been working with a handful of different projects. And then, yeah, this is like the CoUnity team here on the bottom, all fantastic team. And we've actually grown a little bit since then as well. We've got about 14 team members right now. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been super exciting. And that's a little bit mapping out of, everything that we do. You can find us at CoUnity _ on X.
Wow, yeah, that's quite a lot of different things that you do. Yeah, and I think would love to. I mean, if you could share more about the GTC, is that right? Yeah, go to community strategy. I think
Yeah, for sure.
probably I'm sure many people in Web3 have heard of like go to market. That's like pretty common, right? I mean, because like how
Yeah,
to take your project to public, like there's different phases, right? But like go to community, I think that's like a new concept. So would love to,
totally.
yeah, if you can
Yeah.
share a bit about. Yeah.
I'm just going to share this window. I actually have this in a PDF, and this is a little bit. It's kind of funny. You
Yeah.
can see a little bit of the rebrand.
Okay.
This was a little bit of some of our old branding. So
What a brand. Okay. All good.
yeah, yeah.
But
This was
the content is the
actually
same.
yes. The content's the same. We'll go through the content. This was actually a presentation in Token
Dubai
2049
token.
Dubai.
Nice.
Yeah, so I actually did this at it was funny. It was more of a technical pitch competition. And I just wanted to get this message out more about what we're doing with community. And I messaged the organizer and I was like, I don't really have a very technical product pitch thing, but I got this community presentation that, might be helpful for projects that are thinking about building community. And she was like, I love this. This is so different. She's like, let's see it, right? And so, yeah, let's
That's
jump
awesome.
into what this is. And here's a little bit about, the adrenaline junkie photos of me. This is some of the clips
Nice.
playing soccer. There's me
Now we get to see you
paragliding.
paragliding.
That's right. This was a funny project, actually. This was a Optimism hoodie that has an NFC chip in the OP.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the lore of it is that you have to upload a photo, and you do it through on chain through tapping on the crest here. You have to
Wow.
upload a photo with the hoodie, and then you have to give it to someone else. And so it's like it passes on to different people, and all the
Exciting.
photos are on chain. But
So
I did a little wild one.
nice. So it keeps all the memories of the different people who wore the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, I also enjoy like obviously backcountry skiing. So I like one way to describe me is a little bit of a wild community scientist. I feel like that's like a good kind of element to it. And then around some of my background, like this is the robotics facility that I helped improve a lot of processes on. I mentioned earlier in my
Okay.
bio, and this is the element of me working on top of the roof at the St. Jude Advanced Research Center, building all these different duct systems and whatnot. And then as we got into Web3, going more into podcasting as well. And this is actually one of the guys from the Cookie 3 team.
Oh, cool.
And then this is Ethan with Ibisu Finance. He's building a project on EigenLayer. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But so what is GTC? What is it? You've been probably wondering for a little while now, Dan, like what is this thing you're talking about? So a good thing to like compare it to is GTM. And the biggest difference between the two, and some of this concept was mapped out by this CEO, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago of a product called Orbit Love. His name is Patrick Wood. And GTM is a lot on value capture, right? It's around going after the eyeballs, going after attention. It's like, how do we capture this attention? How do we, market, get people to see our thing, right? You look at target personas, you look at, converting people into customers, paid ads, KOL influencers, like funnel perspective. GTC is looking at how do we create value? What's value creation? And what are the community personas? How do we, bring them through to more loyalty? How do we think about value exchange? And so an analogy for this is like GTM is like kind of fishing, like you're going out looking
Yeah.
for, the people to kind of bring into your project, get that awareness, attention. GTC is like designing a watering hole. So how do you think about
Mm.
designing a space where when people go to it, it's such a great experience that they have that they go tell all their friends, so like, you got to come check this place out, right? And so that's the whole ethos to a lot of this, right? And so how do you get there? We reversed engineered a lot of successful projects with really strong communities like Monad and what they were doing really well, Arbitrum, Chainlink, big projects in the space. And I thought through their onboarding experience and how do you really come up with these elements and, and psychology of what builds, this value exchange, this component of, creating something that people find is valuable and recommend to other people, right? And to do that, I mentioned like mapping out the different personas and knowing who these people are is the first component. There's another framework called the community canvas, and there's three main pillars to it. The one's identity, and then it's experiences, and then it's the structure. And so if you can really map out your identity really well to start with, then you can help design the right experiences, and then you can make sure you have the right structure in place to like host that experience design and host those types of people, right? And so that's a lot of what you're thinking through on this like GTC element is, the right funnel, the right value exchange component. I mentioned some of the analytics in the past and how we do that. This also touches on that same flywheel. This is like a really close parallel to the GTC strategy is this flywheel of like building these strong initiatives where people come to your watering hole and then they have an experience and they engage with it and they have a relationship to it and they build trust with it. Then they go and tell other people about it, right? And so we do often layer in at the right time, even referral mechanisms, and like network growth effects and like these types of things. We had a project we were working with. I think we started, they were about 15, 20,000 members in the Discord, and they're pushing
Mm.
they're pushing 100,000 members now.
Wow.
And some of
Impressive.
the elements of growth that we brought them were very much like lore based, gamified components that they went through an experience and they had to then invite people as a part of it, right? And they had a certain amount of invites and it just started to really compound and grow, right? And yeah, it was a really fun like thing to build, because we kind of custom built a lot of that. And a core kind of ethos to this is this aspect of, the 10 gamification mechanics, which you see these all over the world now when you go through them, like elements of challenges, chance, like competition, cooperation, feedback. Like you see these different elements of resources, rewards, transaction, turns, win states, integrated in all sorts of products everywhere. And once you break down some of these, which takes
Yeah.
a minute, but you start to like, whether you're using Duolingo or you're using a running app or you're using your credit card, it's like in businesses everywhere, they lie into this psychology and this
Yeah.
component, right?
And I think a lot of these come from the gaming world, right? Like the mobile gaming or a lot of it.
Totally. Yeah. And so, I find gamification principles are really helpful coming into, experience design because it's helps build more of that affinity and connection. And so, and like a lot of these also, by the way, they came from this book. It's a great book, For the Win, The Power of Gamification and Game Thinking in Business, Education, Government, and Social Impact. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it has these different principles and talks about these different elements. It talks about this PBL triad, the points, badges, leaderboards, and like a whole component of like that was often wrapped up into community design. I created this as well. This was something that we made called our master quest flow. When you're thinking about gamifying a quest, there's so many different questing platforms with different pros
Yeah.
and cons. I mapped all of them out and looked at like, how we connect the runs in the right way or what has the right hooks and triggers for us for the projects we work with. And actually, I've got like a little gift to you that I was sharing with people. We could link this if you want in the resources or something, but basically I made this ChatGPT prompt, and the prompt creates, it's a grid prompt. And what grid prompts obviously do is they create this massive table. And so the inputs for this prompt are to tell it what your community is dedicated to, what your project is to, what your mission is about. And, in general with AI, the more context that you give, the better results that you get, right? Garbage in, garbage out. You give it lots of great context, you get better results. So if you fill this in really well and then map out your different community personas, then you get this table where on the x-axis you get all the different gamification elements, challenges, chance, competition, etc. And then on the y-axis you have all your community personas, and then it comes up with different community experience ideas for each persona based on that mechanism. And then the idea of it really, and the way that I use AI quite a bit, is ideation. It's to create a big table with a bunch of ideas where you can look at it and be like, ooh, that could be cool actually if we did a little bit, if we did this a little bit differently, right? And so it can help solve that kind of blank white paper element, to not knowing where to start with GTC, not knowing where to start with a community design, right? So it was a bit of a prompt that I created around this. But yeah, that's like a bit of the ethos of go-to-community strategy on value creation. And that's what we're innovating in constantly and experimenting with and building unique flows around, and then helping train teams for it. I think there's a lot about what we're doing for projects where it, from an agency perspective, agencies often are thought of as quite, extractive sometimes. They're not really extractive, but just not in-house, like doing the work for them, right? And what
Yeah.
we're trying to paint more of with community work that we're doing is, yes, we can do stuff for you. There is the done for you element of what we have, right? And we're looking to, how do we move more into done with you? How do we build community teams? How do we help set up projects for success? And then do it yourself. How do we have some of the tools now that we can just recommend and set up in the right way in the bundles that you can just subscribe to and help you with it? And we can still be there done with you on a component of supporting with strategy and supporting with elements there, but really empowering projects to bring community-led growth into effect and bring this aspect of harnessing that power. Yeah, that's a little bit of the GTC
Yeah.
flow. Anything that pops to your mind?
Cool.
Any questions?
Yeah. Actually, so like sounds like you very much like long-term oriented, obviously, and then like performance based. I think if I understand correctly, right? Because a lot of this is you want you want to build community that stick, right, and people who would stay around for long term. And I think it's been like the challenge. It's the first time I've seen a very, I would say, like systemic or like very
Yeah.
systematic presentation on community building. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of like guests who also like have their own like strategy with building communities on this podcast as well. Obviously, I think some of them were like more. Some of them already begin now with like a game community, so I guess it's a bit easier because you revolve around the game. But like for example, project that's difficult to understand, like EigenLayer, I would say EigenLayer is still even difficult for the technical people, right? Not even for the layman. And then how to you came up with the strategy and led the ambassador program. Yeah, it's really fascinating, I would say. Yeah. And would you say that what's been like the main challenge of but like when helping these different companies or DAOs organization building their communities?
Yeah, a common one comes up quite a bit, which you probably will identify with as well, around TGE, and airdrop farmers. And
Oh,
what's the strategy for airdrop
yeah.
farmers and TGE and everything? Because we get in this dilemma and component when you're trying to build a lot of these in the way that, I presented around this value creation. It sounds very like beautiful and nice, but, building in that organic way can often be, it's a high quality component. It's may not a huge number. From a
Yeah.
vanity metric number side of things, there is a challenge that a lot of projects have where centralized exchange listings, they want to see a Discord with 100,000 members. It's like a box they want to
Yeah.
check, right?
Yeah.
And they almost don't even care if they're like bots or farmers or whatever, but they want to have a number that's like the community's 100,000 members. It's like, check, we can like pull their token into the listing, right? And
Mm.
so our approach for that has been taking a look where like they're going to do the hint of like a potential airdrop, and drop a Zelia or Galaxy. Like this is maybe some of the strategy that lots of projects do. When as soon as you put a quest on Zelia or Galaxy, a lot of the time it gets a bunch of attention if there's any sort of hint around an airdrop. And what happens is these actually get shared in groups, like Telegram groups that have a lot of farmers in them. And then they just it blows up. And then some of these farmers have like multiple accounts. So then they go through them with multiple accounts. And so you just get this huge flood. And the real pain point for these projects is it's like a bit of a pollution. If they're not strategizing for it, now their community has this very low quality extract, like someone who's just coming more to extract value amongst the whole community, and they don't know who they are. And so our approach is the segmentation side. We'll be like, you know what, you need to get to 100,000 members. We can do that, no problem. We could do that probably in a few weeks if you said the right things on social media. But what we're going to do is tag anyone who comes through that form of onboarding, who comes through one of those quests, and make the community only one or two channels. So it's literally like everyone goes in and gets this shallow level to the community, but then we build the right systems to find the quality or the other organic onboarding methods that unlock the full server, unlock the specific spaces for who they actually are. And that's where you tell the team, spend your time nurturing that quality, right? Because those are more of the people who care. Maybe there's more intrinsic components there. This is your 1%, right? And then harness maybe that farmer energy of all those people. If you need to stress test your, test net or whatever, right? Like, yeah, go tell them to go do some transactions or give them the quest to hop through and give them like the pointer, and they'll jump through the hoops. Like those people, we've designed different things for, projects, and like the hoop jumping's crazy. Like you give these people a little bit of a sniff of a drop and they're like jumping through any hoop. But yeah, that's a bit of a big common pain point that involves a lot of thinking, strategy, system design on mapping out the farmer, I guess you could say, strategy in a certain sense on how you approach that.
Yeah, makes sense, because I mean TG is usually only happen once, right? For most projects, it just happen once, and then it's a very big deal, and then so everyone, like every project, I'm pretty sure want to do it right, and they want to weed out like the farmers who cheat or abuse the system, and want to reward the long term like believers, right? The long term real community members persona, like you said.
Yeah, and it's also like setting up the right systems up front make it much, much easier. I've worked with the client in the past where I was like, oh man, we're looking at who we are going to drop to. Everyone comes to this point with around the airdrop, like, okay, who are we going to drop to? And I've been in those spreadsheets with those thousands of wallets and like their connected socials, and then trying to look to see who deserves a drop, like what did they post and all these things, and looking through it in that way, and even using like AI and systems to segregate it all. It's an immense amount of work if you're doing it,
I bet,
at that stage. But if you're planning
you
earlier
cannot do it
on,
manually, right? You cannot do it manually for sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's some components where people like we had when we did this with a client, there was certain things that flagged for manual review. So we had like AI automated, and then we had some flagged for manual review to like check into it, right?
Yeah.
But hypothetically looking back in time, if we had launched certain quests or missions or experience design earlier on that were done the right way, then we could have that much more organized and tracked from the beginning. And so we've learned a lot now, having gone through that process, having to look backwards without it, to being like, okay, if we did it again now, we would know exactly like how we'd want to have the wallet connected or an on-chain touch connected to a social profile, so that then we can like easily connect those two, right? Because there's even components where they're like, oh, it's like we would love to reward these people, but we don't even have their wallet addresses. How are we gonna get their wallet addresses now, right? So it's like thinking through those strategies now is everything's a little bit more clear. But I mean, that's the benefit, I think, for partnering and working with us on things, is we've seen a lot now. So it's a component of bringing in that experience now and compounding it with these bigger projects that we work with and designing new things. We've got lots of great stuff cooking, so it's fun. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I bet. And then also, like, I mean, most projects just usually build one, right? Or even founders who go on and build maybe 1, 2, 3 project, right? But it's quite rare. Usually, I would say one project. And then, but versus like your team who's really specialized on this aspect of community building, you have seen a lot. You have like seen a lot of these, right? So you condense a lot of the best experience or like best practices, we call it, and then use it to create your own or GTC, I guess, that framework, and then apply. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's exciting.
yeah, totally. I think
Exciting.
we even have some. We have one of our earliest members in the team. Shout out to Ezra. He came from the Web2 world, and he was being in
Mm.
community for a long time. He was working at a company called Mind Valley, and he designed and built their ambassador program. And that ambassador program scaled, I think, to 4,000 events in 1 or 2 years with like 400 or 500 ambassadors in countries
Impressive.
all over the world. And he had a team of like 7 or 8 people that were just
Yeah.
helping operate this program. So brought in a lot of, when he came and joined us, a lot of operational strength, management strength, and like, running and project managing an ambassador program. And then that collided with our, Web3 knowledge and experience and, the whole token economies and everything like that. And then that's what's like made some of these really powerful ambassador program designs that we're building now and the tool that we're kind of using for us. But yeah, no, it's been really great.
Yeah, fascinating. Cool. Curious, you said you've been working some clients, some of them very long term. What is your business model? You can share a bit about it. Is it like
Sure.
uh,
Yeah. So a lot of times it generally starts with lots of projects on either a bit of an audit and renovation and recommendation of their existing community design. So it's like in that structure space. Or for some of them, it's a whole brand new community. There's some projects we're working with that are launching a bit of a new vertical or a new product, and they just want to create their whole brand new community, right? So there's the initial structure design. That's typically like a one-off for us, where it's like, this is your price point. This is what you pay for us to build or renovate this. This is what it's kind of looking like, right? And then when it moves to more of our retainers and ongoing partnerships, this is like an element of figuring out, okay, well, do we have, are we going to help build a community team? Do you need like the moderation support, right? Do you want the analytics so you can see, how the different activations and experiences are doing, right? Do you want us just to help you with maybe one event or one mission or questing type flow or one activation, each month? And for that, like, what are your goals? Do you want quality? Do you want growth? Do you want, information? Like, do you want feedback? Like, what is the kind of goal KPI there? What's the community experience that fits for that? We can help design one with you. And then we really like to bring in that analytics component to measure to see how it's doing, see if we're on the right direction, right? And then oftentimes those experiences will start to show us who's like the cream of the crop, like who's really killing it with like content or killing or activating in the community. That then gives us like the indicator. It's like, you're ready. We can launch an ambassador program. So now we can take those 1%, those people who are super active from those experiences, and then harness them and create a system and a plan and a bit of a process for how they can be closer connected to the team, more intrinsically motivated, as you say. And then sometimes, we did do like a retroactive reward that they weren't expecting. Like we did this for our programs where we looked at who are the top contributors and they didn't even know they were going to get it. And then it was like, boom, surprise, like you've done an amazing job. Like, and that even brought more value when they weren't expecting it, but these are some of the different like components in our models. So definitely like the one-offs on the builds, the audits, the structure design, and then retainers that, oftentimes sometimes we usually do a minimum 3-month retainer, but a lot of time we get into like 6-month retainers. And then with a lot of our projects, we've had a really low churn with our clients, which has been really nice. I think marketing agencies
that's awesome.
typically
Yeah.
have a higher churn. Like you do a marketing campaign and you maybe
Yeah.
like churn or whatever, but we are very sticky and helpful and partnered. So it's a great relationship that we have with the clients. It's
Awesome. Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, what the service you guys, your team is providing is more unique and tailored, right? Versus marketing agency. I feel like, of course, there's a lot of marketing agencies. Some of them are really good, better than others, but I think your service is somewhat unique. So, which I think explain the low churn rate. It's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, we
Cool.
partner actually with a lot of marketing agencies.
Okay.
And so I often have these partner calls with them because we give them a lot of deal flow because they often ask us like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm pretty like adamant around, I don't want to be a super agency. There's too many super agencies. We're going to stay what we're really good at and get it into a nice flow, right? And to your point, like a lot of it is a little bit customized and figuring things out. But the more that we do this with lots of projects, we're learning a lot of common trends and creating a little bit more boilerplate and things that, we can repeatedly do a little bit more effectively and just quickly bring like quick wins and value to projects as well, right? But it is difficult for me. Like, I don't have much to model after. Like, I don't really have any companies that I'm really modeling after on scaling a community agency style business.
Yeah, that's why it's like pretty unique. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? I mean, a new thing in Web3. And then, yeah, a couple of questions for we will close out the show. How do you think Web3 community building will evolve in the future?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility for even the element of Web3 to be abstracted more and more and more with technology. I think like the big companies getting on board right now um, it's like a really interesting indicator for us. There's a lot more understanding and appreciation for blockchain technology. And at the end of the day, I think people won't care so much as long as their experience is better and they pay less fees and it's faster and they have a better experience. And so I think we'll see a bit of a blend of these worlds of elements of community with ownership being just a little bit easier from a user experience flow than they are right now. Like right now, it's like to be a community member of a project and really be a real token holder, you gotta like setting up MetaMask, my seed phrase, and all this other stuff. I think that's gonna get a lot, easier. And then I'd also say I'm really bullish on this element of the importance and value of community building and retention, because there's going to be so much more competition in the future with AI marketing and like with AI products. It's like we've got tons of new products being built because AI can help you build them. We got tons of marketing initiatives going on, paid ads, and all the cost of your eyeballs is getting more and more expensive. So therefore, real loyalty building and actually building more of this ethos and connective component to brands is going to be much, much higher valued and important for projects to have.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think as AI like proliferates and it will only grow more and more, right? How do you find that core component? What's the word here? I think trying to get people to become from like just user to like ambassador, right? Most people to like ambassador. I think that's the easiest way. Kind of like a consumer brand. You turn a customer into an ambassador who would represent you, and then if you have a lot of those, then you have a strong community.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
really cool. Awesome. And then, yeah, do you have an advice for people who want to build their own Web3 company? I mean, what you're building is obviously very difficult. You must have learned some lessons to
Oh,
share with
yeah.
people.
I mean, I've talked to lots of founders. I've been at month-long hackathons and, worked and talked to a lot of different founders and projects. I think my biggest advice would be, what's my biggest advice? I think there's a degree to leaning into your curiosity about something and what can be built with the technology, but definitely, and this is where like community becomes really valuable, leaning as much as possible into collecting feedback from your potential users, really trying to understand that there's actual real demand for what you're building, not just getting excited about the technology because it can do something, but like really validate that there's a real need. I think like the book The Mom Test is really great for this, to really
I've
understand.
read that book.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I think everyone, like early stage builders, need to make sure that they go through and read that. And yeah, like there's an ethos of something called the ACP funnel. Build an audience, build lots of awareness, whatever, then build a community from that audience, which are like more like the diehard of your audience, and then build a product from that community. Like if it's in a certain industry or niche and these people all have a similar pain point, then build a product that directly solves that pain point for that community, help them shape it, and you instantly will have like a product that people are paying for, right? So if you can take some of that flow, get as much feedback as possible, and build more of the MVP way to get that before you go like all in and get excited about the tech. That's probably my biggest advice.
Awesome. I think that's, what is it? The decades old advice, but it still works. Always like build something people want, and then instead of just like trying to build a shiny object that nobody actually needs. That's always good to listen to customer feedback. And awesome. And final question: where can people follow you and your project? Feel free to share any handle. I think you did mention a couple, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me on all platforms as the Dan Rodman, and yeah, on Twitter, on Telegram, on LinkedIn. That's like my handle everywhere. And then CoUnity is just CoUnity and then underscore on Twitter. I've also got LinkedIn in my bio as well. But yeah, And you can find our website also if there's an interest form if you want to jam with us at CoUnity.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to put all those links down here in the show notes for the viewer and listener to follow along, and for those who may want to contact you. Yeah, once again, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show today, Dan. It's been awesome talking about GTC, go to community strategy, and how you've been helping the project building community in Web3, which is, I would say, one of the core components for successful in Web3 project, but not many have actually done it right. So once again, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're back to my studio. What do you think about community building in Web3? If you run a Web3 community, what is the most challenging aspect in growing your community? Leave a comment below, and I'll make sure that Dan and his team will take a look at it. For the next episode, we're stepping away from the Web3 world to go into the AI world to talk to Eduardo Gonzalez, the founder of Express AI. Express AI is building a digital workforce platform that lets enterprises deploy and manage AI agents. These are specialized, persistent digital workers that collaborate with human teams, learn over time, and deliver measurable outcomes with governance and predictable cost. If you enjoy this episode about Web3 and entrepreneurship, please give a like and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.